So lastly, in this look at constraints, what we'll do now is look at constraining an object to more than one parent. So we've looked at point constraints, orient constraints, and parent constraints, but we've always snapped an object to a single parent. So what we're going to look at, and this is leading on to using or building up IK, FK switches, and that process uses constraints to more than one parent quite extensively. So it's a useful thing to know, and so what we'll do is initially do it with spheres, and you can see how it works. So I've got 3 spheres, and ultimately what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the blue and the green as the parents, and then I'll constrain the red sphere to both these 2 parents. So let's have a look at how to do this. So it's exactly the same process, but obviously you've got more than one parent. So select those first and shift select the child. Okay. We're just going to do a point constraint, which is the movement, the translation. So point constraint, bring up the menu and make sure that all constraint axes are ticked. We don't want to maintain offset. We want ultimately, by not maintaining offset, this child sphere will kind of snap halfway between the two parents, which you'll see. So maintain offset is off, click on add, and there we go. It's found exactly the middle position, exactly between the 2. So sometimes you find that constraining to more than one parent is a good way of finding what the middle is. Again, exactly the same structure. You've got the point constraint in the outliner, so you can see that it's an exposed node that you can delete if you want to. So once you've found the middle point, you could in fact delete it if you want to and use that as a marker. But what we'll do is have a look at what constraining to 2 parents gives you in terms of outcome. So if I grab the green, which is one of the parents, and move, obviously because the red ball is constrained to the 2 parents, it will always try and maintain the middle distance between the 2. Okay, so this again can be quite a useful technique within rigging. If you've always got a joint that always needs to be halfway between 2 other joints, it's ideal. You can use constraints. Okay, and again, if I move the other parent, exactly the same happens. So it will always try to maintain that middle ground. Now, if I select the child, you will see that the constraints are exposed underneath the shape node, and this is where it's quite important to see what's going on here, and this is what we'll effectively tap into for the rigging side of things. So you can see that the child has basically got p-sphere 1 and p-sphere 2, and ultimately a value of 1 for each of those. So basically what that means is p-sphere 1 is the blue, p-sphere 2 is the green, and this is why p-sphere 1 and p-sphere 2 is exposed under the shape. So it's basically saying what the parents are that the red ball is constrained to. 1 is generally a value of on, fully on. 0 is a value that's fully off. So at the moment it's fully constrained to both spheres. Okay. Now, if I want to just constrain it to p-sphere 1, I turn p-sphere 2 off. And as you can see, it's fully aligned now with p-sphere 2. 1, sorry. So just exposing that, p-sphere 1 is fully on. If I wanted to bring them back to half each, I make sure both are fully on, and if I do the reverse, it will now align to the other parent. So it's almost like a switch, and anything that has a channel you can animate. So ultimately, again, I can let me just put some keys down. I can animate the blue parent, so over 24 frames it's just moving down. If I make both on, then you can see over 24 frames it's always trying to find that mid-ground. And also let's animate going from one sphere to the other. So let's say at frame 1 I'm going to turn P-sphere 1 off, key those, key selected, and you can see it's gone red, which effectively means that there's an animated channel on there, there's a keyframe, and then over the course of 24 frames it's going to animate from one to the other, and don't forget to key the new values. So if I scrub, it's basically moving from one sphere to the other. So you can actually animate these switches as well if you like. That can be really useful if this is a character that might be running from an object. This could be a character that's firing something at this character, so no matter where you animate this character, the projectile will always hit the character in the final key. Okay, so it's useful for things like projectiles, that kind of thing, throwing weapons, all that kind of thing. Constraints are really useful. Okay, so that's, in summary, that's what you get when you constrain one object to two parents. The child object will give you almost the switches that you can dial on or off to kind of decide which parent you are dialing to, or whether you're dialing both at the same time. Okay.